All right, everyone. We got a lot to talk about on today's episode. Everyone, we got a lot of events coming up, a lot of past events that happened, and we're gonna just jump right in. Mark, give him a shout before we start.
Yo, what's up, everyone?
All right, guys. So let's talk about the gym stuff, of course. Again, I got one more week until I'm out in Thailand, so I'll be gone next Thursday to the following Thursday. Today, again, is the 31st of March. We're rolling into April. Tomorrow, April Fool's Day, everyone. Make sure don't trust anyone, just like any other day. So tomorrow, we roll into the new month. I'll be gone from the 6th until the 13th. So, again, if you guys need anything from me, let me know before or wait till I get back. The staff will be holding it down until then. Reach out, Coach Steven, Coach Logan, or Mark and Rich, and Coach Bryson, anyone. Okay, just make sure you guys try to work out with the coaches who are there. If you guys, again, need anything, just, text me, call me. Actually, calling probably won't work since I'm international, but just shoot me a text, DM me on Instagram. That's okay, and reach out to me for anything. Again, Eddie Bravo seminar coming next month. Sorry, not the next month. The next month. So starting tomorrow next month, but not right yet. Not yet. On May 20th. So again, just heads up. May 20th and 10th Planet Oakland. Eddie Bravo is returning to the Bay for his seminar. Make sure you guys sign up. If you guys have questions on how to do so, let us know. Other than that, we have also a few tournaments coming up in April, obviously the 23rd and 22nd, I believe. Is that the right dates, Mark? 22nd, 23rd, or 23rd, 24th?
It's the 22nd and 23rd.
22nd, 23rd. Okay. IBJJF in Santa Cruz tournament, and we have the Jiu-Jitsu World League tournament in Stockton. So we got a lot of our competitors getting ready for that. April 15th, Logan Diaz is going to be returning actually for his Muay Thai fight in the Koa Training Academy in Newark, California. Before then, the following week, next Saturday actually, Bryson Davis returns to MMA Cage and fights at 559 Fights. So a lot of fights coming up, a lot of events, a lot of competition opportunities, and a lot of things that we need to be training for. So you guys make sure you're staying in the gym, training hard, and staying ready. Now, moving on to some of the announcements, talking in regards to the news that's coming around in the sports world, in the combat sports world specifically. Let's real quick talk about this last weekend, okay? Last weekend, we had UFC, Sandhagen versus Vera, and we also had the David Benavidez fight with Caleb Plant, and we also had Eddie Bravo's CJJ tournament and Medusa tournament. So, we'll start with the UFC. We'll do a quick rundown of some of the results from these last events, and then we'll move on to some other topics that I want to get into. So, UFC off the top, the fights. The main event was a great fight. We had Chito Vera and Corey Sandhagen going at it, and it was a great bout. Sandhagen was just real nice, had the footwork, had the timing on Chito. Chito could never get settled in and wasn't able to pull off any real attacks on on Corey. And Corey was able to get the decision win. There was some controversy there over the decision. Some people gave the fight one person gave the fight to Chito, and no one understands how that happened because we thought that Sandhagen pretty much dominated the entire fight. So that was really confusing to see. Mark told me that the Macy Barber fight was similar, right? Mark, can you tell him about the Macy Barber event?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a grappling versus significant strikes type of deal where Macy Barber did get more significant strikes, but every time I was tuning into the fight, Lee was beating her in the grappling. So it's a lot of people online were saying that Lee got robbed on that one.
Yeah, I mean Macy. Unlike Chito and Sandhagen, the right winner I feel got the win for that. Looks like the Macy Barber fight versus who is it again?
Andrea Lee.
And it looks like Andrea Lee was robbed of her win. So, in some cases, some judges will get it wrong. But when majority of the judges get it wrong, that's a really tough decision. And that's really hard to take. And so, who knows? Maybe they'll run it back. But with the judges, again, is another incentive for us to see into the judging criteria a little bit more and seeing where these judges are reasoning with some of these decisions. It's just amazing to see some of these judges get it just completely wrong. Also, Holly Holm returns and beats Santos. What's her name, Mark?
Yana
Santos? Yana Santos. And Holly dominated the entire fight. And I don't think Santos ever got off. It was a 3-round fight. Holly's still showing that she can get her W's. And, hats off to her, former women's bantamweight champ, one of the greatest knockouts in UFC history against Ronda Rousey. Always a fan of Holly. She's a great ambassador to the sport. And looks like she's still in the game. So we'll see where that leads to her. I don't know if she'll be able to fight again for the title, but there's not a lot of talent in the women's division, so she may be able to get that title shot again, depending on how the rest of the fights go. But we'll see. Holly still sticking around for the time being. Now, moving on to the boxing event. So we had a big, huge fight in the super middleweight division. David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant. If you guys did not check out the fight, it was really a very, very big beat down on Caleb Plant. David Benavidez dominated for a good amount of the fight, and Caleb wasn't really able to get off much against David Benavidez. David was picking him apart with the jabs to the body. He was hurting him inside the clinch, and it was really great to see David was able to come back. I think he's been out for a while, but I think Caleb Plant's been active, but that activity didn't help much with David Benavidez. David being really long. If you guys are not aware of David Benavidez, I feel like he's the man who can really give Canelo a run for his money in the middleweight division, and I've been watching him for a while. David Benavidez is a stud, straight up. He knows how to fight in the pocket. He knows how to fight in the outside. Really fast hands, and just a super big talent. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's his next fight, and maybe against one of the Charlos, and we're gonna see him actually look to call out Canelo soon, I hope, and hopefully we can see Canelo back in the middleweight division. I think after Canelo's fight with Bivol, it just goes to show that Canelo needs to be down in weight a little bit more. So check out that fight. Again, if you guys watch it, let me know at the gym, and we'll talk more about it. We'll break it down. It was really exciting. Good to see that they got some good matchups in these boxing events. And with that, we'll move on to the CJJ event and the Medusa event. Now, the Medusa event I didn't watch. Mark, did you see the news on the Medusa event? This is women's combat jiu-jitsu in Medusa. It's Eddie Bravo's tournament. And who was the winner for that one? A Filipino girl, from what I remember. I think she's Filipino.
Yeah, I got to check her name, but Nakaya from BMAX school came in second.
Yeah, shout out to Kaya Jackson from BMAC school. BMAC, the 10th Planet Decatur in Alabama. BMAC, one of the legends in the 10th Planet system. He's got a really good team out there. He's been holding it down with his team, and BMAC's also the commentator for EBI. So it was good to see Kaya make it all the way to the finals. And who do you got as the winner again, Mark? The name?
It looks like Alex Enriquez.
Alex Enriquez. Yeah, you can tell by the last name she's a Filipino. So, big shout out to her. I didn't see, again, the event. I'll watch it back another time. But the Medusa event's great to see that women's jiu-jitsu and combat jiu-jitsu, right, Mark? It's combat jiu-jitsu rules?
Yeah, it was a really good event.
Did you get to watch it?
I did, yeah.
What were your thoughts on it, Mark? I didn't get to see it.
I was rooting for Kaya the whole time. She was looking really, really good, too.
What was the final event? What was the... did it win by decision, overtime?
Oh, was it an armbar?
In regulation?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Enriquez definitely shows that she's got talent, because Kaya's not an easy opponent, especially not to tap in regulation. So shout out again to Enriquez for winning the women's Medusa event. And then we had our very own 10 Planet NorCal's Alan Sanchez go up and work into the CJJ event, the Combat Jiu-Jitsu World, which is, again, the men's division. And Combat Jiu-Jitsu rule sets, again, Jiu-Jitsu with open palm strikes in a one-night tournament. You run through the tournament, and you meet the other side of the bracket at the end in the finals. So Alan was able to run through 3 opponents in going into the finals. He tapped all of them out. I believe the first tap was what, Mark? Was it a heel hook? No, it was... I think the second one was a heel hook. And then he had like a... almost a Darce or a ninja choke in the third one. I forget what the first one was. The
arm and guillotine?
Yeah, he had I think it was the guillotine. So again, shout out to Alan Sanchez. Again, 10th Planet San Mateo's very own. Alan was able to get all the way to the finals, and he met Andrew Tackett in the finals. And Tackett, I knew from the get-go he'd be a tough match. He was going to be a dog in the fight, and Andrew was really superior with his work on the other side of the bracket. He was just running through everyone as well. And, in the finals, unfortunately, it didn't go Alan's way. Andrew was able to get the victory in overtime, and it's part of the game. I know Allen's definitely going to be back. Allen being a champion himself, he's going to be back, especially when we get back to the EBI welterweights division. And the CJJ is one of those events where it is a little different approach, obviously with the palm strikes, with you being able to hit people on the ground and getting your game out of there, typical than your normal jiu-jitsu circuit or your jiu-jitsu rule set. So when you go into a different rule set and you have to deal with different objectives and different goals, sometimes it changes it up. But Allen was able to keep his game going. I feel like Andrew was too, and the fact that they were able to keep their game shows how high level their jiu-jitsu is, and just shows that it doesn't matter what's going on, they're able to execute their jiu-jitsu to the highest degree. So shout out to all the competitors on the CJJ event. Shout out to Eddie Bravo for hosting it. It's always great to see that combat jiu-jitsu is getting more and more popular. More people are watching it. And if you guys haven't seen the event, make sure you guys watch it back on UFC Fight Pass. Very good show, very fun to watch. Now, we're going to look forward, okay? We're going to see these upcoming events because I'm going to be, again, out next week. So we're not going to have a podcast episode until I get back from Thailand. So, again, for all you guys who are going to be tuning into these next fights, make sure you guys let me know when I get back on what you guys think of the fights, because I'm going to be missing we're not going to be able to talk about this weekend's fight. This weekend, no UFC, no combat jiu-jitsu, no nothing. It's going to be Gamebred Fighting Championships, if I'm not mistaken. This is Jorge Masvidal's event. Jorge Masvidal will be hosting a boxing event. And now, get this, people. Excuse me. Get this. We got Gamebred Fighting Championships, and we've got the legend, the one of the greatest pound for pound fighters who has ever graced our earth, Roy Jones Jr., is fighting former UFC lightweight champion Anthony Showtime Pettis. And now I can't wrap my head around how this match came to fruition. I understand that youth plays a factor, that obviously Showtime is a little younger than Roy. Experience is a factor, which definitely Roy has an advantage in boxing. And then we have the age, not the age, the speed factor, where it's kind of a toss-up. I feel like, I would give it to Showtime because of his youth, but Roy Jones doesn't look bad. He looks like he has fast hands, one of the fastest left hooks in the game. And this is just an anomaly. Size is just ridiculous because, again, I don't know. I believe Roy fought heavyweight against Mike Tyson, and I don't know how big Anthony Pettis has ever fought, but Anthony Pettis, again, was a 155 champion in the UFC. He moved as high as 170 from what I remember, but I don't see him going up toward a heavyweight class. But, it is what it is. They're going to be boxing, and then we're going to see what happens. Also in that event, we got UFC legends Vitor Belfort and Jacare Souza, both who are not known as big boxers, but Vitor Belfort was able to knock out very old Evander Holyfield in his last boxing match. And Jacare Souza, I thought he was still in the UFC, but I don't know. I guess you could still be in the UFC and do these fights, right, Mark? Because it's like, it is a UFC Fight Pass event. And I got Jose Aldo in another match against Jeremy Stevens. And Jeremy Stevens, I believe, is still in the UFC. If I'm not, it could be like it's just retired fighters, because most of these fighters are past their prime, and they're obviously not going to be on a level of a David Benavidez or Caleb Plant. But fighting's fighting. People love to see it. People want to see their favorites go at it still, even in old age sometimes. So we'll see how that event turns out. I hope it turns out to be good fights. I hope we get to see some shine from these veterans. And, it's really good to see that at least there's some opportunities for these guys after the UFC. I would have liked to see them maybe try something besides, getting their head bashed in boxing. But, again, it is what it is. When you're a fighter, you're a fighter. When it's your time to go, you look for other opportunities, and sometimes those opportunities can be equally, or if not more, dangerous than the original. After the UFC, again, there's a lot of the guys who cannot step away from the fight game. They just love it so much, and it is what it is. What are you going to do with that? Let them fight. If they're going to be fighting for a show, better than them fighting out in some other scenario where they're on the street or doing it illegally. So let's see how that event turns out to be. I'm picking for that fight. I'm going to pick Roy Jones. I'm going to pick Jose Aldo, and I'm going to pick Vitor Belfort. Mark, you got any picks for these?
I'll just copy your picks.
Okay. Fair enough. Eat, sleep, jiu-jitsu. So now we go into the big fight next week, the UFC event. We go into the fourth. You don't call this a rematch because it's a rematch technically for MMA rule set. It's the second fight, fourth fight for these two gentlemen, Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya. These two are going to be going at it for the fourth time. Now, we talked about this many times with the first fight. You know, Izzy's been knocked out twice now by Pereira, and the first one was a controversial decision loss. So, in a sense, it's really more of a 2-1 kind of scenario if you consider Izzy should have won the first one, but actually on the paper, it's 3-0. So, I would be a fool to not pick Pereira again for the fourth one, but I'm not going to say Izzy doesn't have a shot. Izzy's lethal as it gets, and Izzy definitely has a fighter spirit. Who knows if he had a few more seconds in the last fight in the first round or second round when he rocked him, he could have finished that fight. And Pereira, we know he has the knockout power at any given moment, and he has the power to hurt Israel. So again, you can't count Izzy out fully, but Pereira obviously has a lot of experience with Izzy. He knows his style, and he's beat him before. So that confidence coming in, and the fact that he's got the advantages of size, the advantages of him just having that edge on him, having his number in a sense. So interested to see on that. See what the results is there. That whole card is stacked. There are so many fights on that card. I can't begin to get into it because it's just going to take another full episode length. And I'm when I get back, we'll do a little breakdown of that fight and talk more about it, because I'm sure that card is going to be full of fireworks. Let me just real quick ring off some of the fights that I'm looking forward to watching on that event. So from the early prelims, we got Cynthia Cavillo. I'm looking forward to see her fight against Lupita Godinez. We've got not too much else on the early prelims, but on the prelims right into the first fight onto the preliminary card, we got Chris Barnett and Chase Sherman. Chris Barnett, if you guys don't watch this flipping heavyweight out here, this guy is something else. Little ball of fire. Kind of reminds me of like a Jack Black, right? Just a super small, compact ball of energy fighting Chase Sherman. I'm picking Chris Barnett for that. We've got Michelle Watterson fighting Luana Pinheiro. I don't know about Luana, but Michelle Watterson's been around for a long time. We've got in the next fight, the Leech, Li Jingliang versus Michael Chiesa. And I'm going for Li because he got screwed on his last event. I definitely want to see him get a victory. Chiesa's good, but again, Li deserves to get that victory after that robbery with him and D-Rod. And also him not being able to fight at the weight that fight a fighter in the same weight class that he was supposed to have. Kelvin Gastelum and Chris Curtis leads the prelim card. I'm going with the 10th Planet guy, Kelvin Gastelum. Also, Chris Curtis has been complaining a lot about this fight. I'm not a big fan of that. So, moving into the main card, look at this from the top down. These are all banger fights too. Raul Rosas, the prodigy, the child prodigy in the UFC. The teenager is fighting Christian Rodriguez. I'm picking Raul for that one. Raul, I've seen him for many years, and he is nasty with it. Moving into the next fight, Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. I'm going Kevin Holland. I love Kevin Holland. Ponzinibbio is a very dangerous fighter, though. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get the victory, but I want Kevin Holland to get that victory. Rob Font faces Adrian Yanez next. Adrian Yanez, I believe, is going to be a future champ, so watch out for Yanez. Nice hands, super, super slick. I'm picking Adrian Yanez on that fight. And then we got the co-main event of the night, Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. I'm going to go ahead and pick Gilbert Burns. Man, what a tear he's been on. I love Jorge Masvidal. I've been a Jorge Masvidal fan for many years, and we just talked about Gamebred fighting. But as you can see, he's definitely doing his thing in the Gamebred promoter for his Gamebred promotions. So you don't know how much time he has to focus on training. I know Gilbert Burns is all in and trying to become champion again. And not to say Jorge doesn't want to be a champion, but you got to anticipate that you're stretched a little bit because of having to do the job as a promoter and hosting these big events with the Roy Jones fight right around the corner. Now, the main events of the night, we talked about it. I'm picking Alex Pereira to beat Israel for the fourth time. And after that, I don't know. Maybe they'll do a fifth fight. I don't think Izzy's going to stop fighting Pereira until at least he gets a victory. So if Izzy adjusts and tries to make it a point fight and not engage Pereira, he may be able to win that. But Izzy doesn't seem to be cut from that cloth. I feel like Izzy's going to try and knock him out and make an exciting fight with this one. But again, Izzy has done that before. Excuse me. Maybe he is cut from that cloth because he's done that. He's kind of been a little more reserved. The Yoel fight was an example of that. He didn't engage with Yoel as much. But there's got to be some angst on his side wanting to get a knockout against Pereira since he's got 2 knockouts on him. But who knows? If he's smart, he may be a little reserved. But if he's going to be a little more emotional, he may be going for that knockout, and we'll see. Mark, any of the picks you got against me on those fights?
I think the only one is the Chiesa one. I'm going to go with Chiesa on that one.
You Chiesa fan, huh? Okay. I respect it. But at the end of the day, it's anyone's game in these fights, like you all know. Anytime anyone can win, and it just takes one shot, it takes one mistake for you to capitalize and get a victory, and on the opposite end, for you to get a loss. So in this game, there's little room for error, which moves on to the biggest topic of the day that I wanted to speak on. Now, this is a topic that I've been thinking about for the last day or so because it's been big news. Mark, you'll be able to edit it, but you guys have a little headline here. And if you're on YouTube, you can read the headline that just came out yesterday. The headline that came out yesterday, if you guys can believe this, let me read it back for you guys real quick. Let me see if I can find it. The headline is Jiu-Jitsu student wins $46 million after being paralyzed in class. Now, this is a scenario where I read the headline and it's been spreading like wildfire around the area. You can see Henry Gracie's post. It's he's got something where he's up talking about that, and this is a situation where I feel it needs to be spoken on. Now, again, the headline. Just in the headline, it's a scary thing. You know, a school was being I should say. Instructor and their school was sued by the jiu-jitsu students because the jiu-jitsu student was paralyzed after taking a class, during class, okay? Not after, but during class. So what happened was, from my understanding, and I'll correct myself again if I'm mistaken, was that there was a situation in class when they were live rolling and live sparring, and then the instructor was behind the student. The student was in a crouching turtle position. Mark, maybe if you can put a turtle position here. And maybe you can even just show the video of Leo Vieira back take. If you guys are familiar with the Leo Vieira back take, this is, I believe, what the situation happened. What happened was, when the student was in a turtle position, meaning on their knees, on their elbows, tucked in, the person on the back, the instructor who was rolling with the students, decided to try to go for a back take by flipping over the students. So what happens when you flip over the student is that it makes the other student do a forward roll as well, and then gives you the opportunity to take the back and get back control, get the legs in, and get the hooks. So what happened was, from my understanding, is during this attempt at the Leo Vieira type of back take, the student turned his head the wrong way, and that pressure of that person flying over the back of him ended up putting pressure on the neck and paralyzing the student. Very, very sad, very unfortunate news, and nothing anyone would want to intend to do against someone else, because that is just a horrific situation. Students paralyzed. I'm sure the jiu-jitsu instructor and the school was horrified. It, in a sense, is it's a total accident. No one meant for that to happen. No school wants to paralyze a student. No school wants to maim you for life. This is a situation that brings to awareness what we do and the significance of being cautious in our roles, the significance of rolling smart, making sure that we're making the right decisions. Not to say that this instructor made the wrong decision or did anything wrong, because this instructor, I've looked him up. He's a legitimate instructor. He's a black belt. He's been doing this for years. And the student, it wasn't their first day either. They were training for a good amount of time. From my understanding, again, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. From my understanding, this student was not a first day student. He's been rolling before. It's not like the instructor just pulled this guy off the street and then, first day of class, he decides to roll and do a Leo Vera back take. No, I believe that these two were experienced with each other before, and this incident happened. Again, when we think about it, in jiu-jitsu, in martial arts, in all the stuff we do, it's already dangerous. It's going to be some room for error. No matter how safe you practice, if you're practicing for real martial arts, you will be in some sort of danger at one point or another, and that danger comes with inherent risks. We can mitigate some of the risks. We can mitigate some of the injuries, but it's no guarantees. There's no guarantee that you can always be safe. And just like with any sport, you run track and field, you can roll your ankle. You go basketball and you fall down on your ankle wrong, you can snap your tibia. And the list goes on and on. Football, don't get me started on the injuries you can get in football. And again, there's been people who've been paralyzed or died in sports in not many times, but in the times in the past. And there's no way to stop all of that. Now, when it comes to a situation like jiu-jitsu or martial arts, again, this is the highest priority for us to make sure everyone is able to walk off the mat safe after they're done training. But we cannot guarantee that for everyone, because if some people just in general have just some mistake, they make one mistake, they do something wrong, and they just something happens and they get injured. It's unfortunate. It's very sad. It's not something anyone would wish, but it can't always be avoided. And I feel like what we need to do is not to say, this was just a freak accident. Oh, well, what can you do? We need to use this as a learning experience for all of us. We have to know, okay, we've learned over the years that you're not supposed to be slamming people on when they're in a guard or anything like that. You don't want to be throwing them over and dropping them on their back or on their head. You can have significant damage that way. You don't want to go and obviously manipulate small digits, go for fingers and break the bones in your fingers. So we've taken that away from the training. The scissor takedown, people have snapped their legs going for a scissor takedown. If you guys aren't familiar with the scissor takedown, the Kani Basami, it's a jumping takedown where you scissor your legs and take them down. You can really injure someone that way. Even jumping guard used to be okay back in the day when I was training, but now they stop it, because if you land the wrong way when someone jumps guard, you're going to be in serious danger. Now, do we take these moves and make them illegal so no one can train them? No. We take them out of the live rolls. We let people drill them with a supervised instructor and do it in a controlled manner. And that mitigates the risk a lot. But even with drilling, we can find injuries with drilling. We can step the wrong way. We can make a mistake. But we cannot stop training for those reasons of what could happen wrong. We have to take the technique. We have to make sure we understand it. Where are the risks? Where are the potential harms here? And we have to train safely as best we can and still continue to practice. The instructor who got caught in this lawsuit is still to this day training, still teaching, still competing, and he's continuing the jiu-jitsu journey and moving, because he realizes these things don't happen all the time. And again, I don't know what the financial situation is after a $46 million lawsuit. I can't imagine where his head's at, but he seems to be in good spirits. Now, when it comes to how should we learn from this, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there for my students, for all you guys who are listening, for everyone who is checking it out. The Leo Vera back take should not be done in live rolls with beginners. Okay, if you're talking about beginners, even though this guy wasn't necessarily a beginner, I would not do this back take unless they're a blue belt, or even then, I wouldn't do it against someone who is even smaller than me. Because again, when we talk about moves with your whole weight loaded on a person's body, like for example, a jumping guard, you're throwing all your weight at them. In this Leo Vera back take, you are in a sense putting all your weight on them, and if it's on the neck in that bad situation, that happens. So again, drill this move, use this move against experienced training partners, guys maybe purple belt and up. I would be very cautious to do this against white belts and blue belts. Not to say that, again, they cannot drill it, but I'm going to say right now, for those who are listening, and especially my students out there, avoid this move for newbies, okay? Whatever that newbie means to you, if they're a newbie, this is not the move to start practicing on them, okay? Because this is, as we've seen, can go very wrong. I would say this is one of those moves that we probably need to drill more, and we have to make sure we understand fully if we are going to do it on a partner. If you're going to do this against someone who's never seen this move a day in their life, there's that bigger room for error. But if you've drilled it with someone specifically and you know they react the right way, then yeah, go ahead and throw it on them. So I know this is sometimes a big ask when we talk about eliminating techniques from our rolls and stopping from doing things that we want to do, like jumping guard. I love the jump guard, but I can't do it in the training room anymore. I can't do 5-point takedowns, taking their head, bringing their feet above their head and bringing them down to the mat. I love all that stuff, but we can't do it in the training room for the sake of safety and for the sake of having longevity in the sport. if we want to keep training, if we want to make sure we're able to move around on the mat, there's certain things that are going to pose higher risk and other things that we can get away with that are fine. And again, at the end of the day, we got to learn from these events. We got to figure out something to make this a safer approach to everyone. I don't agree with calling this guy out, saying that the instructor saying he was reckless, saying that he was, doesn't know what he's doing. This guy's a black belt. He knew what he's doing. And also the other narrative that this white belt was his first day and he didn't know anything. This guy trained. This guy knew what he was doing. Again, if this is all correct, then what's fair is that this was an accident, that no one intended for this to happen, and it's super unfortunate. No one wins in this scenario. Everyone is going to be in a bad spot after this, and it doesn't look good for the jiu-jitsu community. But all you guys who've trained jiu-jitsu and love jiu-jitsu know that yes, the risks here are not outweighed by the rewards of jiu-jitsu. The rewards of jiu-jitsu way more outweigh the risk, because all that stuff that could happen in this one anomaly. This is, again, one of those things I've never heard happening before with this back take. I've never seen someone paralyzed from this, but this just goes to show you that, even with this big of a risk, like getting injured or getting hurt, that we still love the sport so much and we still value the sport so much. Having the power to know self-defense, to be able to protect yourself, to have the confidence, have a community of martial artists around you, it's invaluable. This is not enough for me to stop training. I hope for everyone who sees this article and for those who still train today, don't take this article as a sign that they need to stop training or never start training, because that's the impression that I would hate to see happening after this article. Find a school that is good. Remember that there's inherent risks with it, but remember that the rewards out there are going to be worth it if you train smart, if you make sure you do your best. And again, when it all comes down to it, this is only one life we have to live. If we're going to live afraid of being hurt all the time, we might as well not get out of our houses. We might as well not even get up out the bed. So you guys got to live your life. Make sure you do your thing and make sure you keep training. And that's just my opinion on this thing. I know I've talked a lot about this, Mark. Any last thoughts before we close out today's episode?
So I was looking on Reddit, and one of the comments of somebody that's trained with both people, he said that he had rolled with Jack multiple times, he had several years of wrestling, and had been a white belt for a few years at this point, and he was a really tough guy to roll and spar against, even as a white belt. So he definitely had a lot of experience. Okay. And then I just found this there's a Facebook article talking about how it talks about how his body started to respond to the recovery, and he's now one of two individuals with a disability to go above 14,000 feet on foot. And he climbed the mountain. So
he's not paralyzed.
I'll put a picture. He was, but he's
that's him.
He's now recovering from it. So
that's great news. That's great. That's great to hear. He's now there is some other events that's transpiring. I think that there may be continuation to this lawsuit. I don't know the whole story. I'm not going to report on it now. But again, this story is still developing. We're going to see what's going to happen with the follow-up of this. And at the end of the day, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. This guy looks like he's moving around again. Looks like the instructor is still teaching. And maybe we can get down to the actual events that happened with some video evidence, or maybe we can get some more intel from both sides of the story. But I don't think this is the end of this storyline. We'll continue to keep it developed on this story and make sure that we are reporting it with our school, with our channels. And, again, trying to make sure that we give you guys that understanding that, hey, we're here trying to make sure everyone is safe, even though we're trying to work on self-defense, even though we're trying to work on the martial arts and all this stuff that could be considered violent. There's no intention to hurt anyone in these situations. We're just trying to learn. So you guys keep training smart. Make sure you guys are taking care of your training partners. Make sure you respect each other. And that's all I can ask for. Everyone, thanks for listening, tuning in, subscribe, and all the good stuff. I'll see you guys when I get back from Thailand. Train hard, stay consistent.